Happy Halloween, Grant.
Stephen, how's it, man?
Good. I'm so
Happy Halloween.
excited to welcome you to the Binging with Spling watch party. And thank you for letting us watch your movie. It's complicated. Such an excellent short film. You've really just mastered the balance when it comes to the comedy and the horror, and it's timely because of the whole social media dating horrors kind of backdrop to the story. Thanks so much. Yeah,
it's a pleasure. And it's great to revive it. I mean, it's been a few years since we've been able to do that. I thought it was in the past in a way, but I'm so glad to revive it. And thanks so much for the opportunity. And a fitting time to revive it, I guess. So to your point, it's good timing. So it's glad to be on board. Thanks very much.
Sure. I'm going to take the nail out of my head for a second because I want to be a bit more alive for this interview. So I see you've also got a nice Halloween shirt theme there.
I'm right. Got to be done. It's actually Fortnite, but I thought it was the most Halloweeny thing I could find.
It's got a what do you call that? A sickle? No, it's not a sickle.
I think it is a sickle, right?
The death thing. Yeah, it's cool, and it kind of looks.
Doesn't this remind you of Karate Kid?
There we go. That does, and also the skeletal suit. I was actually kind of thinking more in the line of Nightmare Before Christmas, just with the sort of stylized thing there. But dead on. So where did the story come from for It's Complicated, and can you just tell us a little bit about the journey from that inception to sort of like becoming a thing and then going into shooting?
It was a process whereby I was looking for stories, interesting ones to tell, and I remember I put out a competition, if you want to call it that, on Facebook. Ignore the siren. Whereby I invited like screenwriters and anybody who, even aspiring writers, to submit short films, and I would then entertain them and produce them, direct them, get them made. They obviously had to be contained and they had to be within a certain realm of possibility, not like kind of car flips and explosions. And then I remember I got back about 30 scripts, and at that stage none of them sort of kind of suited my headspace. Wasn't nothing personal, but it never worked out. And then I put it to bed. I didn't think anything of it. And then a year later, I got this email from this writer called Calvin Wong, who's this Asian guy living in Canada, who had this script that had already won an award. So it automatically tweaked my interest. So I read it. And at that stage of things, that script was very much what do you call it? Like a premiere for a webisode kind of thing. So it was a standalone. It wasn't a standalone story. It was kind of just like this idea he had for like this online web series. So it was this sort of proof of concept thing, but there was something about it that I liked, and I wanted to create the standalone story as in a short film, a beginning, middle, end structure, and I also wanted to enhance the metaphorical nature of it. So I said to him, look, I in principle like it. It had a different name even. I can't even tell you the name on here because for people that haven't watched the film yet, it actually spoils the film. So I won't tell you the original title. But what I will tell you is that we then went into a co-writing collaborative space, and we had different time zones, and we would do it completely remotely. And he had a very different sensibility to me in a lot of ways, but it also, we kind of complemented each other. And then what I did from there is I went into a workshop with potential actors at that stage who I thought would really do well in Paul and Johan. And just over a weekend, we workshopped the script, and specifically dialogue I wanted to be the focus of that workshop. A lot came out of the workshop, and I utilized that workshop to rewrite a lot of the script. And also I used the workshop as a proof of concept for myself to feel comfortable that this could work as a project. And after that weekend, I felt completely comfortable, barring the fact that I didn't have my girl yet, which was very important. And Paul just came out of it and he said, listen, I think I've got the perfect person for you. And he introduced me to this girl on Facebook. He showed me this girl, Lisa, and I was just looking at her profile, and she was absolutely obsessed with Halloween. Like, almost like every day was Halloween for her. So Halloween was like Christmas for her. And she was this big time like actress in South Africa, which she had done like black sales, and she had this trajectory going, and like, so I contacted her and she didn't even hesitate. She's like, no, absolutely, you can count me in. Probably watch the film. It's quite interesting. She's almost like seamlessly just binds it all together. And she was just fantastic. And I'm so grateful for the entire cast on that, you know. So, and then obviously with the help of Picture Scope and Bird, who graciously offered to, you know, finance this project and also make sure it got seen at festivals, which is often the part that people don't take into consideration when you're costing these sorts of things, is that festivals aren't cheap, you know, but in order for something to get reach, you have to enter them. And yeah, so I'm grateful to both of them as well, you know, for both parties. So yeah, I hope I've answered it. I don't know if I've answered too many of your questions already, but yeah, I'm sorry.
So, you know, comedy is just so tricky, and you know, you make it really look natural and easy. So you kind of spoke about the screenplay already being almost there, and then the dialogue and the workshopping kind of polished it a bit and got it to the stage it is.
Yeah.
What is the secret? I mean, you also obviously have quite an extensive experience in history and commercial directing, and so I mean, what is the secret with comedy, would you say? Is it just about timing? You know, what is it?
Yeah, I think comedy is almost like an underrated genre. And I've always felt that way. I feel like it's always like that knee slapping thing that has given it its bad reputation, where I don't know, I grew up on like Mel Brooks and like which is kind of weirdly enough quite, you know, can be a bit hammy and stuff. And I grew up with George Carlin, like as a comedian. And for example, George Carlin as a comedian was also a spokesperson. He was also someone that had like a lot to say, and he's even still being quoted now, and he's actually way more relevant now than he was then. And I feel like comedy is a means to get messaging across, is such an effective medium. And like, I know at the Oscars, like, how often does a comedy win Best Picture? I don't know, but I feel like it's underrated, and I feel like it needs to be taken more seriously in a way. I know that's ironic, but I feel like you get a thing that's whereby you can create the sophistication within that genre, and if that makes sense, cinematic sensibilities and things like that. So I think when I made the short film, for example, I wanted that. I wanted to feel totally relatable, and ultimately let the comedy come through the situation versus, you know, someone slipping on a banana peel, if that makes sense. So, you know, the ironies, or playing into ironies and playing into the metaphors and playing into these blatantly obvious things that people, you know, take for granted. And yeah, for me, comedy, it is a difficult one, but I often feel it's because we look at it through the incorrect lens. And for me as a director, what I tried to do with this is, I remember I did like a whole masterclass, when masterclasses weren't a thing, like ages ago, with Werner Herzog, and I remember him saying one of the key messages was never compromise. And I think that's what I went into this with, is like, I never compromised once. So from the DOP to the sound person, to, even though this was a short film on a lean budget, I never compromised with the performances or what have you. And it's an easy thing to say, but yeah, I think that was one of the key things that I used as a navigator, if that makes sense, for that film.
Yeah, actually, I've just been watching Werner Herzog's masterclass. I'm sure it's the same one, and I do love his approach. His very sort of stripped down kind of way of doing things, and how he's kind of aiming for those magical moments, those transcending the celluloid, pure cinema moments. So yeah, very admire him. Very, very opinionated guy, but it's kind of good. It really is like steering people back to what cinema really should be all about. Yeah, and I thought you did a great job in terms of marrying the comedy to the horror in this film. So, just getting back onto the track here a little bit. You're an award-winning commercials director. Okay, so but I mean, I can obviously hear that feature film is like a real passion for you. Is it ultimately where you want to focus? Is that kind of the goal?
I don't ever want to box myself and say that, but I will say is that ultimately I'm a storyteller, and and luckily have built a career in advertising where that's what I do on that front. But I just ultimately want to tell stories, you know, and whatever that like gets monetized and what have you is great. I mean, I do have ambitions to make long form projects. I have a few ideas in the works. Like, so for me, I just want to be known as a storyteller, and someone that maybe has a point of view on things that can utilize filmic media to get a message across or make people feel something, you know. So I don't think that I necessarily want to say that I want to move away from advertising and become a long form director. That's not necessarily my ambition. My ambition is I'm a storyteller, and I mean, like, there's been a few directors that have proven, like Gondry's done it, that can do multiple mediums, you know. So ultimately, like, Gondry's a storyteller in his own specific style. Jonathan Glazer, or like, I mean, there's lots of who've crossed over and they've come back to advertising, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think it's particularly true in today's world, how even with actors, you know, no one's really specializing in film only. I mean, you see Julia Roberts taking on a lead role in a TV series, but then being open to film. And I think all the mediums have really got so much respect and have kind of almost interwoven because of just how high quality the products are becoming, that you can actually do music videos like David Lynch. I mean, with that Rammstein music video for Du Hast in the middle of nowhere, but also being open to commercials and film and like Werner Herzog as well. I mean, he's doing documentaries, he's doing feature films. So I think it is an age where you can actually have that level of versatility and specialize and kind of have your own trademark as a director and your own kind of flair that you become known for. So
sure. Yeah.
And I also understand you've just launched a Drivein Cinema. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. COVID did funny things to people, but obviously, like, my industry shut, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And I guess as a director, you always have time, like, between projects. You know, there's always that lull that happens, and I've always been like, it's difficult to kind of have a sustainable path. I mean, unless you have like a silver spoon operation going to kind of, you know, have a sustainable lifestyle and pick your projects and do it wisely and guide your career. And ultimately, I think in the back of my mind, I've always thought like cinema, ironically, would have been like an interesting thing that I would want to do one day, like not own a restaurant, but own a cinema. Like, you know, maybe that's not the most financially feasible model, but ironically, then this opportunity came up where we were doing fundraising during COVID for masks. You know, this is right in the beginning, and we were trying to get cloth masks to people. And one of the fundraising ideas we had was to do a pop-up drive-in in Cape Town. And what happened was I got approached at the venue in Salt River. It was like an old garage, mutual friend of ours. They had this like amazing space that we now have renovated, an old BP garage. It's got a big lot on the one side with like 10 food trucks on this side now, and on this side I've got space for 50 cars. And yeah, we launch next Friday, so that's quite exciting. And our first film is Back to the Future, ironically, intentionally.
I think that's it's actually a perfect film for an opening of a drive-in because the car features so prominently in the film. You know, you just need to make sure that you've got your flux capacitor, you know, to give to each of the people in their cars, just to plug in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been an insane project, but we're getting there. We're almost ready, you know. But for me, I mean, it's not completely alien, you know. You know, for me, this is to show films to people. I couldn't think of a better, you know, thing to be doing whilst making films, hopefully. So that's kind of that's my ambition at the moment. And yeah, cross fingers. Opening looking busy, so I think you'll be there. So yeah.
Where do people find more information about it?
You can go to www.godrivein.com. On there, you can click through to the link. I think it'll be on web tickets. and then you can just book the tickets. There's a schedule for October, November there. You can pull through, you know. Yeah.
Well, that's like a dream come true for a lot of people. I imagine, like, who wouldn't want to own their own drive-in where they could just sort of like, you know what, I feel like watching a movie on the big screen today. Let me just go and drive in and check it out.
I wish it was as relaxed as that. You make it sound like, yeah, it's yeah, and in a lot of ways I underestimated it, like the logistics around it. But I feel like we've hopefully conquered a lot of them, and yeah, hopefully we can bring some joy to people's lives. You know, I think that's what I'm trying to do here, is like bring back like the nostalgia around that drive-in of being a family environment, you know, and going with your family. It's not ultimately the best way to watch a film. The best way to watch a film is IMAX, you know, but it's not about that. It's about that experience of getting in a car, coming here, having some early dinner, like in the food truck, sitting in your car, watching a cool film, you know, just something you can do as a family, you know, or on a date, I guess. Also a nice place to come on a date and things. So yeah, hopefully we're creating something cool here, you know. I hope.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about doing it again. It's such a nostalgic thing, and just plays into all the strengths of what's happening right now. So yeah, good luck with that, and I'm really looking forward to attending that opening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. It's been fantastic talking to you about everything that's. You've got such a bucket list. I mean, you've had your own personalized film festival. You've directed film. You've opened a drive-in. Like, you know, you've done some good stuff on that list, hey?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for this opportunity. Thanks for showing the film again. I'm so glad, and I'm glad it's, you know, on Halloween. So that's great, man. I'm so excited.
It's a pleasure. And you know what? It's just it's like a perfect film for Halloween because it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of you know, it's got that Halloween darkness, but then it just is like the perfect Halloween film in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Grant. Enjoy the next film, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Cool, man.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop the recording.